Good morning. So, I have talked about how much I love South Park before, and I've already given perfect scores to both Orgasmo and Basketball when talking about it on this show. Today, I want to take you guys back to the absolute beginning of Trey Parker and Matt Stone's career, because it all starts with a feature-length student film, which is now a successful stage musical.
Ho 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 ho! Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today we are going back to the start of Trey Parker's comic genius. Originally known as Alferd Packer the Musical, Cannibal the Musical began as a 3-minute trailer made by Trey Parker and his friends when he was studying film at the University of Colorado Boulder. The trailer managed to garner so much attention that they were able to source independent funding, and over the course of spring break and several weekends they ended up shooting a feature-length film, and so many people became so invested in the production that several people actually failed their film history class as a result. And after its original run, it was picked up by Troma Entertainment, the distributors of such cult classic films as Class of Nukem High, The Toxic Avenger, and Romeo and Juliet, the first film ever written by Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn. Cannibal the Musical is based on the real-life story of Alferd Packer, an American prospector who tried to lead 5 men on an expedition from Bingham County, Utah to Breckenridge, Colorado. He ultimately led them all to their death and was forced to eat their flesh to survive. And so of course Trey Parker took that story and was like, hey, let's make a musical about it. Cannibal the Musical begins in traditional Troma fashion, with a fuck ton of blood and gore, which is intentionally excessive but also too ridiculous to take seriously. Although as a kid, this definitely freaked me out a little bit. Also, the color scheme is almost monochromatic, but everything that's red is highlighted. You might recognize this use of color from another film, Schindler's List. Well, guess what? Cannibal the Musical came out first.
Write that down, write that down!
All the excessive violence turns out to be the fantasy of the prosecution, who was attempting to convict Alferd Packer for cannibalism.
But that's not the way it happened.
But that's not the way it happened.
An investigator named Polly Pry comes to talk to Alferd Packer about his story, but he doesn't say a word until she mentions a certain name.
Leanne.
Do you know her?
What was she like?
She was beautiful. She had long, dark, shiny hair, and almond eyes, and little pointy ears, and big fluffy tail.
Leanne is his horse, but there's a lot more to that story which I'll go into later. Then we get the first song of the film.
The sky is blue and all the leaves are green. The sun's as warm as a baked potato. I think I know precisely what I mean when I say it's a SHPADOINKLE day.
They literally invented that word for this film. Trey Parker was originally writing this song and he used the word SHPADOINKLE as a placeholder, but then in the end he ended up just leaving it in there, and thus he invented a new word. The words don't even sync with Trey Parker's lips in the end, so that just adds to the campy value. Also, if you haven't seen this movie before but you recognize that tune, yeah, if you've been watching South Park, you've been listening to this tune for years. Alferd Packer goes to meet with a bunch of prospectors who want to journey to Colorado Territory to mine for gold.
In Colorado Territory?
That's the place.
I'd love to go back to Colorado Territory.
I didn't know you were from Colorado Territory.
They just keep saying it.
Hey, didn't you say you were from Colorado Territory?
Well, I just worked there for
Hey, this guy's from Colorado Territory.
Again and again.
Who's guiding you there?
Lucky Larry. He's from Denver.
Oh, you mean the Denver from Colorado Territory?
The Lord works in mysterious ways, and I think this is a test of our will. My fellow Mormons know what I'm talking about.
Of course the Mormons get a reference in this film. Among the prospectors are actor Dean Bahar, who is recognized for playing Chota Boy and Squeak Scolari. And of course Matt Stone, who is actually wearing the exact same type of hat as Kyle Broflovsky, the character he voices on South Park. And then they start singing that song again.
There's nothing we can't do if we aim for the sky is blue and all the leaves are green.
But when their journey starts, it goes on for a bit longer than they originally anticipated.
See, I always have Leanne with me when I come out, so I don't know how long it's going to take us on foot.
Well, she certainly is a SHPADOINKLE horse.
Drink every time they say that word.
Could you tell us how much further it is to Provo?
You'll never come back again. It's got a curse on it.
Provo?
The Rocky Mountains, I gotta warn you. You're doomed.
This guy here was actually an Alferd Packer impersonator in real life, but Trey Parker also found him to be such a terrible actor that he dubbed all his dialogue with his own voice. And it took me a couple of viewings to figure that out, and he's a very good voice actor.
Howdy.
Does that voice sound familiar?
Oh, it was terrible. They recycled the air on board and it really did a number on my asthma. I asked them to turn up the oxygen and they wouldn't.
Yeah.
You guys, you have fudge here.
That seems like a throwaway line. Trust me, it comes back. While they're all stocking up, Alferd notices that his horse has drawn in the attention of some locals.
This your horse?
Yep.
Birdie.
We have another song, this time about all the characters desiring better lives.
That's all we're asking for. That's all we're asking for. We're tired of being sick. We're sick of being poor.
The tune is jaunty, the singing voices are great, and for a low-budget film with very little choreographed movement, there is genuinely a lot of spirit and style to this scene. The next morning, everyone wakes up to find that Packer's horse Leanne has disappeared.
Leanne!
They follow her tracks, which happen to be going in the same direction, but then tragedy strikes.
Watch out for that bear trap.
What?
They all try and cross the river, but it doesn't pan out, and they end up further off course. Later, when they're around a fire, Matt Stone remembers something.
Oh, wait! I got some fudge.
Before that line comes full circle, we get another song all about how much Packer misses his horse.
The sky was a lot more blue when I was on top of you.
A lot of the words in this song equate riding a horse with having sex, and that is no coincidence. For the record, the entire story arc about that horse Leanne, that's semi-autobiographical. Not to Alferd Packer though, it's actually Trey Parker's life story. Leanne was actually the name of Trey Parker's high school girlfriend and fiance who ended up cheating on him a month before the wedding. With that in mind, this entire arc about Leanne makes more sense. Also, that's the reason they named the character Leanne Carmen after her and made her a whore, just as a big fuck you. When the song is finished, we get this line.
Fudge Packer.
Yep, they incorporated fudge into this film solely so they could make a joke about Alferd Packer's surname. Also, in an effort to embrace this film's campy musical roots, Trey Parker ensured that this film actually had a lot of gayness to it. And you can see it in the characters at so many moments. This film is the original gay cowboy movie, not Brokeback Mountain. There are some really nice moments of scenery in this film since it was all shot on location, even though there are shots like this where you think it might have actually been shot on a green screen. Then the characters stumble across some Native Americans.
君は何者だ?
You know how in those old John Wayne films they always have white people playing Native Americans?
What the hell kind of language is that?
I don't know, just keep laughing.
Well, Cannibal the Musical is a lot more progressive than that.
He says, "Welcome to the land of blue light."
According to the commentary on this film, that's actually how you say Jesus Christ is dead in sign language.
すぐこっち来い。早く。
Yep, they progressively get more Japanese as the scene goes on. And Trey Parker does some more voice work.
この映画が大嫌いぞ。
He doesn't know what they're saying.
Gotcha.
Did they literally just bring snow with them for that joke? It's so random. Things get more Japanese. And more. I don't know if this joke is actually meant to be a satire of whitewashing in Hollywood history, or if it was just meant to take advantage of the fact that there was a lot of Asian students studying at the University of Boulder, Colorado, but either way, it's fucking perfect.
He says, "Who are you, assholes?"
Holy shit, it's G-Fresh.
We are Indians.
Yes, I see that, but what Indians?
You don't think we are Indians?
If you can't remember who G-Fresh is, let me remind you.
You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
As a reminder, this actor, Masao Maki, he actually owned a sushi restaurant in Boulder, Colorado, and Trey Parker and Matt Stone got free dinners there every night in return for casting him in this film. That worked out perfectly. And every time they cast him in a film, he goes so over the top. He's genuinely a wonderful actor.
Look at all these teepees we have, because we are Indians.
Yeah, they have teepees.
Not even the slightest bit of subtlety.
We are from Utah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our heroes run to the trappers from earlier, which leads to another song.
I can catch a helpless animal, skin it with my bare hands.
Which Trey Parker sings in the third supporting role he's voiced in this film. As far as all the musical numbers in this film go, this one actually has the best editing. The random things that this scene cuts between is hilariously versatile, with Irish folk dancing and random brick walls finding their way in. But the song actually gets cut short.
Oh, stop. That's sick. I agree. None of us singing in the wrong key.
I don't know if this actor actually knew he was going to have his voice dubbed when he was singing in this film or not, but either way, that actually makes this line so much funnier.
This is Leanne's food bag. You dirty so-and-so, where is she? I don't know what you're talking about.
And the situation turns violent.
Do you need to go to timeout?
The judgment of this court is that you be removed from hence to the jail of Hinsdale County, and then and there be hung by the neck until you are dead, dead, dead.
Death, death,
That line there, that was not meant to be a joke. That was originally believed to be the actual verdict handed down to Alferd Packer when he was convicted. Although that was later proven to be a myth. But also, this is Trey Parker's father playing the judge here. Notice the resemblance? Polly Pryor then gets her own musical number titled This Side of Me, and Toddy Walter's singing voice is genuinely brilliant. She's a professional singer-songwriter in real life, and all the makers of Cannibal the Musical were very grateful that she sung for the film.
What is this magic I feel? Thought this mushy stuff.
Halfway through the song, a random kid wearing modern-day clothing walks through the shot. And that's because this scene was literally shot on the staircase of the University of Boulder, Colorado. And this guy just happened to be a student there. Later, Polly Pryor returns to visit Packer in prison, where she argues with him, which is said to foreshadow her real-life 8-year relationship with Trey Parker. Also, Packer is inexplicably building a dollhouse. And the reason that's in the movie is because in real life, Alferd Packer was actually known for building dollhouses. This film decided to be very obscure and esoteric when it came to certain historical accuracies. Another example is that the courtroom scenes in this film were shot in the actual courthouse where Alferd Packer was tried, even though there's nothing obvious about that. Even the shot where Packer randomly gets hit by a tomato, there's historical evidence that that happened. After a morning of learning about karate from a Native American, Packer convinces the others to push on.
I mean, Breckenridge can't be that far, right?
Yeah.
Besides, if you quit acting like a sex-starved little Mr. Pervert, we'd be able to get out of here.
Goodbye.
Oh. Watch out the Cyclops.
Suddenly, the story inexplicably introduces a plot point from Homer's Odyssey, which begins with a sheep.
No, to eat. No, I gotta take a piss.
It leads them to the film's discount incarnation of a Cyclops.
Are you looking at my eye? No.
The journey stretches on, but the situation is getting dire.
Trying to look at our situation here, and I've come to the conclusion that we're completely fucked.
And this leads to a song which may or may not have inspired Frozen.
Well, let's build a snowman. We can make him our best friend. We can name him Tom. We can name him George. We can make him tall. Or we can make him not so tall. Snowman.
Yep, this film pioneered the original Snowman musical number before Disney did, so that means they beat Frozen and Schindler's List to the punch when making certain decisions in this film. And there's even tap dancing in this one.
Hey!
If you look closely in one shot, you can see that they've actually given the snowman an alien head. It's said that Trey Parker and Matt Stone hide the images of aliens in every single episode of South Park, and they do it several times in this film if you look closely. So I guess they've been obsessed with this gag for years. And this song ends with my reaction to people singing that one song from Frozen all the time. Also, this one shot here reminds me of a moment from Silent Night, Deadly Night. Morale of the prospectors is getting low, and they have to eat their own shoes for the night. The next morning, everyone is even more on edge, so we get a reprise.
Let's build a snowman.
That night, in a moment of sheer desperation, they decide to eat his remains.
Wait, you're cutting into his butt.
Well, what kind of piece do you want?
Well, not butt.
This is the only eating ass that you're allowed to see on YouTube. And when Packer goes to sleep, the filmmakers give us a dance number, just because. During this scene, they beautifully cut back and forth between shots of the dance double and Trey Parker. Sometimes the edits are smooth, and the other times it's obviously ironic, but it's always hilarious. They even have the other trapper come in, and he uses the exact same person as a dance double. There's no reason this needs to be here. They literally put this in the film just because they could. And it's so wonderful. The entire dream ends with this. This is actually one of the more obscure references from the film. In the 1980 biopic, The Legend of Alferd Packer, there's actually a scene where the character wakes up from a dream and shouts "Ike" for reasons that are never explained. So they copied that across for this film. And this was the moment where I realized the second half of this movie is actually a lot funnier than the first. Things were a lot more talkative at the start of Cannibal the Musical when they were setting up the story, but in the second half they go into being just a random collection of comic skits, and they find their footing a lot better. It's way funnier. And just look at the prosthetic effects in this scene, it's wonderful. It's remarkable how Trey Parker has a sense of humour, which makes the use of obviously fake prosthetics seem so appropriate. Although the best example of this is still an Orgasmo.
I just thought of something too. What? Okay, now remember when Swan was building that snowman?
Yeah.
How the hell did he make that tapping sound with his feet? You just now thought of that?
That's just wonderful writing. Turns out that Packer has led them on the wrong path because he wants to find his horse. Although that plotline isn't fully rooted in history, in real life Packer did actually lead everyone on the wrong path because he misrepresented himself as a wilderness guide, so this is kind of true. He did actually lead them to their doom. Then in a twist on musical conventions, we get a reprise from the song earlier. where everyone is actually too depressed to sing. I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, so any excuse to make characters sing less is actually a good one in my books. Everyone starts turning on each other, trying to decide whether they should sacrifice someone so the rest of them can eat. With everyone feeling weak, Packer asks them to stay put while he climbs to the top of the ridge to see the land beyond.
Nobody eat anybody.
Unfortunately, he doesn't find anything, and he comes back to all of them having been decked out in wonderfully low-budget blood effects. The character Belle has gone completely insane and killed everyone.
I don't think you killed these guys in self-defense either. I think you just killed them. And I'm telling.
And things get even bloodier. And thus we get another musical number. Never mind, they found another way to stop characters singing in this musical. Genius. You know those jokes in films that go on way longer than they need to, and that's the entire reason they're funny? And you can never really tell whether he's actually survived in the end. This moment perfectly symbolizes just how unpredictable this film can be. Alferd gets back to civilization, and then he finally finds Leanne.
She's letting you ride her.
Trey Parker is now one of the most successful people in Hollywood, and the guy that Leanne cheated on him with is now an insurance salesman. Suck shit. Suddenly Packer is getting accused of murder, and this leads to a bar fight like you've never seen before.
Oh, wait, you guys. I can explain everything.
And Packer finds the wisdom to finally stand up for himself.
Don't be such a wimp.
And Trey Parker's black belt in Taekwondo once again comes in handy.
I'll eat this guy right in front of you.
You serious, man? Don't move!
Apparently they actually fed this guy so much helium in this shot that he almost passed out no less than 14 times. And then we get a classic Monty Python style gag. And that mark on the ground was actually the line the actors were told to follow while running.
You made it to Wyoming, right?
Would have been better off just letting those people catch me and kill me.
Why?
You ever been to Wyoming?
Hello? Oh God, it sounds horrible.
It was.
I don't know enough about Wyoming to make a judgment, but this reminds me so much of the Utah joke from Orgasmo.
No, I'm from Utah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The next day we get another song, and it starts with Matt Stone dressed as a woman solely because he begged Trey Parker to let him do it for this film. These guys genuinely love any excuse to put themselves in dresses. After watching this video, I'd highly recommend you look up the time they dropped a bunch of acid and went to the Oscars in dresses. This turns into a song and dance number which actually has some neat choreography, because they got an actual dance choreographer on board for this scene. And guess who it was? Leanne Adamo, Parker's fiance. According to the commentary, he invited her onto the set of this film solely so he could flex to her that he was making a feature-length film, and because MTV was due to show up and meet with him that day and he wanted to show that off to her. Apparently, they also got all the extras and dancers in this scene by offering them a free meal, which literally turned out to be a hot dog and beans.
This nigga eating beans!
Cowbell solo!
Another thing this film pioneered. A song celebrating the death sentence appropriately ends with Packer about to get hung.
SHPADOINKLE.
Drink. In comes Polly Pry to save the day with a stay of execution granted by the governor, which for the record means a temporary suspension of a court order.
The events that this man is being hung for took place before Colorado was made into a state. Packer cannot legally be tried under state law.
This part's also true.
Polly, why are you doing this?
Because I've learned something.
In case you're wondering, yes, this is the origin of that joke occurring in countless episodes of South Park.
You see, I learned something today.
These people came to see some good violence. By golly, they're gonna see some.
Yeah! Yep, that actor is actually back on the helium again. He tries to execute Packer, but in comes G-Fresh to save the day.
Oh. Ow.
Wonderful.
God bless us, everyone. The sky is blue and all the leaves are green.
My heart's as full as a baked potato.
This is genuinely such a wonderful song to end on, and it actually marks the first time Parker and Walters had ever kissed, before they went on to date for 8 years, of course. And things conclude on optimistic title text. Or so you'd think. I was not ready for that. Also, I'd highly recommend you make it to the end of the credits. On my 5th viewing, I noticed this. Is Cannibal the Musical a good film? Yes. Before I get into analyzing this film, I want to point out that this is actually the only movie I've ever watched with the director's commentary all the way through. And that's because the creators of this film decided to get really drunk during the commentary process. So it ends up being brutally honest and hilarious. The commentary track on this film gives you an entirely new way to experience the film. It may distract you from the story, but it actually makes the experience a whole lot funnier. One important point made by Trey Parker in the commentary of this film was that he was still finding his footing when he made this movie, and he realized that telling the story isn't as important as making jokes. And he pinpoints the extended dialogue sequences at the start of this film as an example of that, because they're not all that funny, they're just setting up the story. In comparison to other works by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Cannibal the Musical is a lot more in tune with the Book of Mormon. A lot of the humor in this film relies on the absurdity of the fact that this film actually exists, the fact that someone went and made an old-fashioned jaunty musical based on a story of cannibalism. The film is intended to be one big joke, but at the same time, there are actually a lot less jokes in this film than there are in other works by Parker and Stone. And the gags don't turn out to be as in-your-face funny as their finer work, so things move a lot slower at times, but that's mainly because the majority of the jokes seem to come from the second half of the film. When the gags are there in Cannibal the Musical, they're genuinely really funny, but you can also see that the creators are still finding their stride as comedians. And they find their stride in the second half of the film, and they start delving into the surreal humor that popularized the early seasons of South Park. And for the record, this film was originally meant to be 160 minutes in length, so even if it's paced slowly, it's a lot better than it actually could have been. Also, once you strip away the jokes, the musical numbers, and the arc about the horse, this is actually a pretty historically accurate depiction of Packer's case, although at the same time, most historians now believe that it was Packer himself who murdered the others. And one thing I love about this film is the fact that Trey Parker uses the artificial western scenery to create a nice campy feeling for this film. It really reminded me of the Francis Ford Coppola film One from the Heart, where everything was entirely intended to look fake for the sake of a feeling of proscenium. And that's an underrated film, by the way. Trey Parker really cleverly combines a loving tribute to classic stage musicals with elements of a horror comedy, while also telling a historical story which is also semi-autobiographical to his own life. It's some amazing amalgamation that only he could come up with. Cannibal the Musical gets 6 SHPADOINKLE days out of 10. It doesn't have the same level of consistency when it comes to pacing or humor as you'd find in Trey Parker's finer works, but it does have the same spirit and ambition that would lead him to success later in life. And there is enough musical charm and humor to get you through the experience and have a fun time. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If you'd like to see more movies discussed on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I have been your host, Jukebox Harry. Peace.